The topic for this week is hospital readmission penalties. Hospital-acquired condition reduction penalties. So the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has all sorts of penalties. Some of those are related to being readmitted to the hospital. The chapter in the book, the example is getting conditions in a hospital, so a lot of those will have to do with urinary tract infections or adverse drug reactions. So you're like allergic to a drug and the hospital doesn't know about it and they give you the drug anyways, and then you have a negative reaction to it. So they're called iatrogenic, meaning that it's a negative event that happens to you because you're in the hospital. And the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services started fining hospitals for that, which resulted in a reduction for them, as I'll show you on the lecture slides during the Zoom meeting tonight. You can see me try to open the data here. I had a typo the first one, so you see it gives me the error message in red. So I was trying to grab the code. I typed BBC WebDAV instead of BBCS WebDAV, but then I just copied it right there and it opened, and then I'll type it again so you can see it. So you can see it has to be exactly the right file name, or else you're going to get an error message. Not state a format. Well, it is state a format, it just doesn't have the correct internet link. So you can see me correct that there, and then it'll go ahead and open the data, which I just pulled from chapter 8 of the book. So I'm on page 185 of the book, and it has a list of hospitals, and then for each hospital, it has a score. So the scores are negative or positive, and the score is related to how much of a problem the hospital-acquired infections were. So the higher the score, the bigger the problem was it. And then if it's a positive number and if it's high enough, then the hospitals start being penalized. So then there's a third column in the data where it says whether or not there was a penalty. So high scores and positive scores, those are the hospitals that were penalized for having too many hospital-acquired conditions. Too many adverse drug reactions, too many urinary tract infections, different negative things that happen to you because you were in the hospital. So there's the list of data there. Remember, list just always opens the data. And so in the first instance, they're just alphabetized by hospital or sorted by hospital. And then for each hospital, it tells you the score. Remember, negative are lower, positive are higher. High positive numbers that are higher, those are going to be the ones that have penalties. So the default is to sort it by the hospital, and then you could sort it by the score, and then you could sort it by the penalty. So we'll just sort it different ways and list it different ways. So it's the same data, it's just sorting it by different things. And then we'll make a graph of the scores like they show in the lecture slides. And then in the group assignment, I'll refer to the case study in the book on the hospital-acquired condition reduction penalties. You can see my notification there. Just let me close that. So now they're sorted by score, right? So negative scores are really low. That means that's not a problem. No penalty for those. Remember, sorted by penalty now, so no. Yes, so they're alphabetized by penalty. No comes before yes because N comes before Y in the alphabet. But then in the do file, you can see that we're just listing it, sorting it by score, listing it again, sorting it by penalty, listing it again. We could add sort of sort by hospital. Remember, the first column is just the name of the hospital, so alphabetize them by hospital, list those out. Alphabetize them by score, list those out. Alphabetize them by penalty, list those out, and so on. So the different versions of the table here, we sort it and we list it different ways, as you could see. And if we draw the histogram here, you can see this just shows the scores. So some hospitals, really high scores, those are the ones that were fined. On the far right of the screen, high positive numbers. And then low negative numbers on the left, those were not fined. So you can see the hospitals that either had a big problem with this, like the ones on the far right, or they had really low scores and it was fine on the far left. So in this instance, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid find those hospitals who had really high rates of this in order to reduce it and to penalize it for it, and then reduce hospital-acquired infections, and maybe the hospital will do something differently as a result of being fined in this case.